A very good afternoon to all of you. Thank you for joining us. Welcome to our LDC plenary. Greater integration of the LDCs into global trade is a shared objective of the international community. It is reflected in the Doha Program of Action. It is reflected in all WTO ministerial documents. Today, LDCs and other low-income economies account for nearly 30% of global aid for trade flows. As a group, LDCs remain the second largest aid for trade recipient. And the UN community has called for doubling the share of aid for trade by 2031. Trade capacity building, be it soft or hard, needs continuous attention as changing trading landscape forces new ways of doing business and continuous upgrade in productive capacity. The aid environment today is challenging due to competing demands arising from the current global situation. It is in this context that we will be discussing what more can be done to better support LDCs fully realize their trade potential and use trade as a force for growth and development. We have a very distinguished panel of speakers. I'll introduce them as I go along. I suggest that we start with our panelists, and thereafter we will open the floor for discussions. To start our discussion, I would like to invite Minister Warsama Mohammed of Djibouti, Minister Coordinator of the LDC Group. Excellency, what are some of the main priorities of the LDC Group in trade capacity building?
Merci. Thank you. Excellences, chers participants, en vos rangs et grades, tout protocole observé, je remercie les organisateurs de cet événement dédié à l'examen global pour l'aide au commerce. Au nom du groupe PMA, je vais essayer de répondre à la question qui m'a été posée sur les principales priorités et renforcement des capacités commerciales de PMA, en partageant avec vous les priorités des PMA dans un contexte semé de défis et d'opportunités. Permettez-moi de rappeler que c'est dans un contexte de sortie des crises sanitaires, des crises alimentaires, des tensions internationales et régionales accrues que les PMA cherchent à intensifier les efforts pour la réalisation des objectifs de développement durable pour surmonter les défis du changement climatique et pour progresser vers une sortie durable et définitive de la catégorie des PMA. Il est indéniable que les PMA disposent de potentialités considérables dans tous les domaines pour la concrétisation de leur développement. Toutefois, malgré les richesses naturelles dont disposent les PMA, une triste réalité est observée, illustrée par les données suivantes. 14% de la population mondiale, 1,3% du produit intérieur brut mondial et moins de 1% des exportations de marchandises. Dans un contexte de défis multiformes, notre objectif doit être de trouver ensemble les voies et moyens d'intensifier les actions en faveur du développement du commerce de PMA, en renforçant la coopération internationale et multilatérale. Afin de lever les défis mentionnés, les PMA s'accordent à utiliser le commerce comme levier de développement durable et inclusif. Cette volonté a été exprimée à travers la déclaration commune de Doha en mars 2023. Nous devons nous engager fermement à mettre en œuvre les programmes d'action de Doha et ces 6 domaines d'action prioritaires qui sont investir dans les personnes, éradiquer la pauvreté et renforcer les capacités, tirer parti du pouvoir de la science, de la technologie et de l'innovation. J'insiste là-dessus parce que j'étais ministre de la Santé dans une période difficile, la crise de Covid-19, et la technologie, évidemment l'Internet, le Covid a mis en évidence l'importance de l'Internet et l'accès à l'information. Donc c'est un domaine extrêmement important parce que nous avons confronté des difficultés et beaucoup de problèmes. Pour accéder aux informations, il faut un débit haut débit, il faut des Internets partout. Et vous vous souvenez, dans cette période des crises sanitaires, la plus grande crise sanitaire, où l'Internet est devenu un moyen de communication et de travail. J'en passe. Appuyer la transformation structurelle en tant que moteur de prospérité. Développer les échanges commerciaux internationaux des pays les moins avancés et renforcer l'intégration régionale. 5e point, c'était lutter contre le changement climatique, la Covid-19 et renforcer la résilience. Mobiliser des partenariats internationaux pour une sortie durable de la catégorie des PMA. L'objectif principal de cette déclaration est d'augmenter de manière significative les capacités productives et d'exportation des PMA, plus particulièrement de doubler leur part d'exportation mondiale d'ici 2031. Également, permettez-moi de rappeler que pour parvenir à ces actions prioritaires, nous reconnaissons le rôle positif du cadre intégré renforcé en tant que seul mécanisme d'aide pour le commerce dédié aux PMA et nous saluons la contribution substantielle du SUR aux efforts déployés par les PMA pour s'intégrer au système commercial multilatéral et renforcer leurs capacités liées au commerce en vue d'atteindre leurs objectifs de développement nationaux. Concernant le renforcement des capacités commerciales, il est essentiel d'accentuer les efforts sur la mise en place d'un plan de renforcement des capacités techniques en matière de données statistiques, des négociations commerciales pour les prochaines années. La mise en place à disposition d'un rapport annuel ou biannuel détaillé relatif au bilan de renforcement des capacités pour chaque pays afin d'élaborer des décisions stratégiques politiques en matière de commerce. Une intensification de renforcement des capacités du secteur privé afin qu'il puisse jouer pleinement et efficacement le rôle d'acteur économique dans ces processus d'échange économique international, de rendre effectif et efficace les traitements spéciaux et différenciés pour la mise en œuvre de l'accord sur la facilitation des échanges. Les membres de l'OMC doivent fournir une assistance et faire preuve à mettre en œuvre les dates définitives de la catégorie C et à trouver un bailleur de fonds pour le renforcement des capacités nécessaires. Soutenir les prolongements de la 3e phase du cadre intégré renforcé, axé davantage au soutien et accompagnement pour la transformation des économies des PMA, notamment dans le domaine du commerce électronique et dans le renforcement des capacités productives des PMA. En conclusion, il est impératif que nous restions unis dans nos efforts pour accroître le développement des PMA et de promouvoir un commerce inclusif. Nous avons le pouvoir de transformer nos économies et de créer un avenir prospère pour nos populations. Je vous encourage tous à fournir des efforts continus et à contribuer activement de cette noble cause. Ensemble, nous pouvons faire de ces objectifs une réalité tangible. J'en profite à cette occasion aussi. J'ai la joie de partager avec vous la journée du 27 juin demain, où nous célébrons l'indépendance nationale de Djibouti. En conséquence, permettez-moi de souhaiter à cette occasion joyeuse fête de l'indépendance à mon cher pays, Djibouti, et merci de votre attention.
Thank you very much, Minister, and congratulations on the National Day of Djibouti tomorrow. And I also thank you for articulating the interest of the LDCs, and it's very clear that LDCs would like to strengthen the trade support going forward, building on the current lessons that we have learned from some of the programs that are in place for LDCs. So let me now turn to the Vice Minister of Commerce of China, Minister Li. China is an important development partner of LDCs. What are the current practices of trade support to LDCs, and how do you see future trade support evolving? Excellency, the floor is yours.
Thank you, moderator, and dear colleagues. It is truly my great honor and pleasure to attend this session. As we all know that LDCs are the most vulnerable group in the world, yet they are also the group with the greatest growth potential. It is the goal of the WTO's Aid for Trade initiative that international community work together to help LDCs strengthen trade capacity and achieve national development. I would like to share with you some of China's practices and observations. Acting on the Global Development Initiative proposed by President Xi Jinping, China has been supporting LDCs within its capacity under the framework of South-South cooperation to pursue shared development and win-win outcomes. On market access, China is one of the first developing members that provide LDCs with duty-free import treatment. This now covers as much as 98% of total tariff lines, one of the highest levels among WTO members. For years, China has been LDC's largest export destination. We fully understand LDC's concern over smooth transition after graduation. China supports a 3-year duty-free transitional period to purchase graduated LDCs. On infrastructure assistance, infrastructure matters most in connectivity. China has been helping LDCs improve transport and logistical conditions. For example, China assisted Djibouti, Sierra Leone, and Guinea-Bissau in constructing terminals, ports, and railways. China helped Cambodia carry out the Dang Khambat Reservoir Project and other water conservancy and irrigation projects, implemented a series of assistance projects under the brand of Friendship Bridge in Bangladesh, helped Burundi renovate and expand its international airport, and much more. With these assistance projects, many specialty products from LDCs have gained an easier access to the international market. On capacity building, we all know that people hold the key to sustainable development. China has been helping LDCs enhance trade capacity. Take development cooperation on human resources as an example. In recent years, China has held over 60 training sessions for more than 2,000 professionals from LDCs, including the technological seminar on the accession to WTO for Timor-Leste and the seminar on trade promotion for developing countries. Another example is support for LDC's digitalization agenda. China has supported Uganda and Solomon Islands in installing fiber optic backbone networks, implemented Lao PDR's e-commerce project, and built the ASEAN Tourism Digital Platform. All these projects have helped relevant countries share the digital dividends. China's development story fully shows trade is a main engine of growth, and opening up brings progress. An evolving WTO will create more development opportunities for developing members. Going forward, China will, as always, support the WTO-led Aid for Trade initiative, continue to provide better market access for goods imported from LDCs, and sponsor LDCs' participation in the China International Import Expo held in Shanghai every year. As a strong proponent of LDC's position on development agenda, China has recently submitted a new proposal on addressing the development agenda and stands ready to move it forward with LDCs. China will continue to fund the LDCs and accessions program, we call it China Program, to help LDCs enhance their capacity of participating in global economic governance. The UN 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development cannot be achieved without LDCs development. As a responsible major developing country, China is willing to work with all parties to help LDCs realize trade potential, better integrate into the multilateral trading system, and implement the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Minister Li. Indeed, China is the top destination of LDC exports, and all the trade development efforts and examples that you have provided will continue to serve as inspiration for many. We wanted to have Vice Minister Sok Sepak of Cambodia, but I'm told that he is not feeling well. But we have Ambassador Prasit Sun among us this afternoon. And Cambodia's trade-led development has been an inspiration. Ambassador, I would like to invite you to share with us lessons learned from capacity building support and what could be the focus of the next generation of technical assistance for LDCs.
Thank you, moderator, for asking the question. And I apologize on behalf for my deputy minister would not be able to attend. And good afternoon, esteemed minister and excellency, ladies and gentlemen. Today, Cambodia is marked as a 20-year anniversary of Cambodia's journey as a WTO members. We just celebrate our 20-year an hour before. When Cambodia acceded to the WTO in 2004, Cambodia international trade volume grew from 4.5 billion in 2004 to 47.88 billion in 2023, with a total export rising of 23.47 billion US dollar. This achievement owed the deliberate effort of my government to implement a success development strategy to achieve a sustainable development goal. The strategy including coordination with all stakeholders, including donor, development partners, and also mobilizing resources in order to develop ourselves through the program of Aid for Trade. In the past, we got a first IF implementing project with the support of from 6 development partners at that time. And continually, we managed to get a support from the World Bank, the UNIDO, from China, from all the different partners in the country to be able to build our in-house capacity building in terms of trade negotiation, supply chain management, project management, and like SPS, TBT, TRIP, IP, and so on, to be able to develop our regulation, our trade policy, our strategy in order to catch the development stage. I would like to take a few examples. In 2009, we got a 16 million US dollar project from the World Bank Group, and then we also tapped another 1.5 million from the EIF to build the in-house capacity to manage the project. At the same time, we also develop our regulation in order to facilitate private sector to be able to export. Besides that, in order to facilitate all trade, we also build a capacity of a custom officer and build their tool to be able to facilitate trade as well. So with the Paris Declaration on Aid Effectiveness, we managed to take our ownership, because every management, every implementation, it was and being implemented by the local people, local officer. We need only a 1 year international consultant to hand on know-how, and then we pursue our journey. I just would like to respond to the next generation of Aid for Trade. I think the next generation of Aid for Trade, there's a lot to be said. Since climate change is now facing a lot of challenges for us, and some members in this House are putting some measures that we have to catch on. I think the next generation of Aid for Trade should include climate change adaptation, and also financial development in order to support developing country as well as least developing country to invest in their new technology in order to be able to catch up the new trend. Because without this new technology, you cannot eliminate or reuse the 1.5 degree Celsius that the UN and the COP28 targeted. Because I'm not an environmental person, sorry to say that. So I would call the developed country and donor to take your risk in order to support developing country and least developing country in both financing and capacity building, because capacity building is a must. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ambassador Sun. And I think the international community has heard your views about the next priorities of Aid for Trade, and definitely we will follow these discussions after this global review. We have with us Director General Gerhard Müller of UNIDO. Director General, UNIDO brings a wealth of experience in supporting industrial development in developing countries. What advice you would give to the LDCs and their development partners as they are exploring a forward-looking multilateral trade support? The floor is yours.
Geht nicht. Yes. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, think about when the 5 richest people have as much wealth as another 4 billion people, the poor. Not 5 countries, 5 people in the world. They own more than 4 billion people, the poor side. Think about this. Something is going wrong with how our world works and business in the world, globalization. And with business as usual, nothing will change. That is my clear message here. We must rethink how the global economy functions. We are here at the headquarters of WTO. The world needs new rules for a fair globalization with opportunities for all, especially for the LDC countries and the developing countries in the world. The LDCs and the DCs, they need a debt relief. That is the first thing. They pay, the LDCs pay more for interest rates than they get development aid. Is this fair? Is this our contribution from the rich part of the world? LDC needs access to world finance market. They do not really have access to the world finance market. LDC needs open markets and investments in local added value. Local added value in cotton, textile. We started a new initiative today. In coffee, in cocoa, in mining sector. That is big business for the future and even a big chance for LDC countries. And then a world without hunger is possible, would be possible, is possible. What is missing is only the political will to do it. Ladies and gentlemen, I ask for new answers from OECD, from World Bank, and from other organizations in the world. Now, exploitation of supply chains needs to end. Think about the situation at plantations. I was there, I visited some plantations, a lot of banana, cocoa, coffee. How are the situation there? We need a system that emphasizes local value solutions and sustainability and fair trade. Ladies and gentlemen, there are many steps where UNIDO helps to unlock LDC's trade potential. Only a few remarks. UNIDO is implementing concrete projects, improving trade capacity. First, increased investments in critical infrastructure is needed. That means transportation networks, digital connectivity, agribusiness infrastructure, and especially investments in processing industry, local added value, creating jobs, jobs, jobs. Africa will double within the next 30 years its population. They need not millions, they need hundreds of millions of new jobs within the next 30 years. They need an answer, an investment offensive. Second, UNIDO is responsible. We invest in technology transfer, including sharing best practices. I think about digitalization and AI. Third, value addition and supply chain integration, that means local value added and access to regional and global markets. Fourth, trade-friendly policy. Here you need to engage with governments and international bodies to create an enabling environment for LDCs. And fifth, sustainable practice and green trade. That is necessary. UNIDO is your partner. But let me use this opportunity, Excellencies. We all know about the crisis and challenges. The representative Excellency from Djibouti, Cambodia, they mentioned it. The today crisis, the pandemic is not over in these countries. The climate change is not over in these countries. And the war in Ukraine and in other countries in the world hit the poorest hardest, affects especially LDC countries. So, and it is clear, we, the rich part of the world, the industrialized countries, must take more responsibility, fulfill their commitments. The commitments about the 0.7 goal. So look in the world of politicians. The budget of military is increasing. The budget for development aid is decreasing. That is the reality. That is the reality. And only not even 10% of the military budget is invested in development aid. Is that acceptable? No, it's not acceptable. Or think about the discussion of the loss and damage fund and some others. UNIDO and the UN organizations, we are our partner, your partner. And our priorities are, and that is very important for people in LDCs, first, ending hunger, SDG 1 and 2. That is most important. I visited Djibouti, Cambodia, and a lot of LDC countries. And therefore, we must invest in food security, in water, in sanitation, in infrastructure in these countries. Second, economic development, sustainable industrialization. As I mentioned, DC needs hundreds of millions new jobs for the young generation. And third, energy, sustainable energy. 600 million people in Africa do not have access to electricity, but there is the new world, the new technologies, use the solar technologies, and there are partners, of course. We establish a lot of projects, especially, thank you, Chinese government and a lot of donors to establish new projects. And the fourth point, strengthening local production. That is the issue of this conference. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Director General. Thank you for your valuable insights, for your contributions, and for the call for fresh thinking in reinvigorating growth in the LDCs. It is my privilege now to invite Ms. Rabab Fatima, Under-Secretary General and High Representative for the least developed countries, landlocked developing countries, and small island developing states. Just have to mention one thing, that in her previous role, she was one of the co-chairs of the PrepCom of the meetings of the 5th UN Conference on LDCs, which produced the Doha Program of Action, which remains the overall framework for trade and development ambitions of LDCs globally. Under Secretary General, what more can be done to support LDCs in realizing trade ambitions of the Doha Program of Action?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Moderator. And with your permission, I would like to also make my statement from here. Honorable Ministers, Excellencies, distinguished colleagues, good afternoon. International trade can indeed be a key driver in transforming the economies of the LDCs. The Doha Program of Action, the DPOA for LDCs, has identified international trade as a focus area for action and set an ambitious agenda for promoting trade and regional integration in LDCs for the next decade. If DPOA is fully implemented, LDCs can achieve significant gains through international trade, including by capitalizing on the multilateral trading system under the WTO. Excellencies, allow me to highlight 6 specific areas outlined in the DPOA that can support the LDCs in realizing their trade ambitions. First, the DPOA makes specific commitments to ensure full and expeditious implementation of the decisions of the WTO ministerial conferences pertinent to the LDCs. However, these commitments remain largely unfulfilled. Despite considerable efforts, LDCs exports continue to face high tariff and non-tariff barriers. It is imperative, therefore, to address these issues, which stand in the way in realizing the full implementation of the WTO ministerial decisions on the LDCs. Second, the Doha Program of Action sets an ambitious target to double the LDC's share of global exports by 2031. Regrettably, no progress or very little progress has been achieved in this regard. Despite representing approximately 13% of the world's population, LDCs continue to account for less than 1% of global trade. Their overall trade deficit continues to widen, reaching a new high of over $124 billion. LDCs need targeted support and interventions from development partners to boost trade capacities through diversification and structural transformation. There are also huge untapped potentials of South-South trade which can boost the trade. And I would like to thank and commend the Minister from China for all that China is doing to also support South-South trade, especially with the LDCs. Third, LDCs need massive investment for trade capacity building, including in diversification, improved value chains, enhancing technology content, and meeting necessary standards. Currently, their exports are heavily concentrated in a few primary commodities. The DPOA sets clear and ambitious targets to increase aid for trade support to LDCs, aiming to double it by 2031. In 2022, the share of aid for trade disbursements to LDCs was 28%, which was worth about $14 billion. However, these disbursements have fallen short and still fall short of the DPOA target. Development partners and multilateral development banks must provide enhanced trade financing, including aid for trade to LDCs. Fourth, the international community made a firm commitment to promote regional economic integration and enhance regional connectivity. This is also a target in the DPOA. The establishment of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area is a milestone initiative in this regard. And the LDCs need more such initiatives like this to reap the full benefits of intra-regional trade. The DPOA has also set a target to fully implement the WTO Trade Facilitation Agreement, and we know that it remains far below the global average at about 47% for the LDCs. Thus, the LDCs need enhanced financial and technical support in this regard. This can reduce trade costs for LDCs by up to 14% and enable regional integration and trade. Fifth, e-commerce and digital trade, and I think that has been alluded by almost all the speakers before me, have the potential to connect businesses in remote economies, especially SMEs, MSMEs, and startups, to global markets and increase the comparative advantage of the LDCs. The DPOA makes a strong call upon development partners to provide support for building and gaining access to adequate energy infrastructure, internet and digital infrastructure, fintech, and developing transparent and fair regulations. Access to technologies, including through operationalization of Article 66.2 of the TRIPS agreement, is going to be vital in this regard. Finally, Excellencies, the DPOA calls upon development and trading partners to extend trade preferences to graduated countries. This is especially crucial now as 15 LDCs are at various stages of graduation. The DPOA facilitated the launch of the Sustainable Graduation Support Facility, the iGrad. This is an important interagency support mechanism led by my office to support graduating and graduated countries. And more support is needed to fully operationalize iGrad. I'm happy to note that MC13 has taken two important decisions on smooth transition support measures for graduated countries to benefit from dispute settlement and technical assistance and capacity building support after graduation. But we certainly need to have more. I had a very good discussion with the chair of the LDC here, and I think we can certainly do more here in WTO in this regard. The WTO has an important role to play in fulfilling the DPO's commitment to incentivizing sustainable and smooth graduation and ensuring that graduation is a reward and not a punishment for the LDCs. Excellencies, I'm pleased to inform you that my office has established a new partnership with the WTO to support the implementation of the trade-related goals for the 45 LDCs, and we plan to undertake joint programs in this respect, and we shall be counting on your support in taking that forward. Let me conclude by highlighting the tremendous potentials of the 45 LDCs and their 1.1 billion people. They present significant opportunities for expanding markets, reaching broader consumer bases, and fostering the growth of innovative industries. And with a huge youth population, they continue to benefit from the demographic dividend. And as the only woman in the distinguished panel today, I have to mention that it is important that we also recognize the tremendous potential of women in the development journey of the LDCs, and they need to be further and better integrated as we take forward this agenda. By promoting a more inclusive, investing in trade capabilities of LDCs is therefore a strategic economic imperative. This approach can stimulate economic advancement within these countries while also advancing global stability and prosperity. Excellencies, by promoting a more inclusive, interconnected and resilient international trade framework, the benefits extend universally, benefiting people and communities worldwide. My office will work with all partners, including my very dear friends here and partners UNIDO and UNCTAD and others, all of you, and WTO, and we'll invest all efforts to support you in advancing this important agenda of the LDCs for the next decade. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Under-Secretary General. Thank you for highlighting some of the gaps that remain in achieving the targets of the Doha Program of Action. But as you have noted, WTO is making important progress in making a contribution to achieving the trade ambitions set out in the Doha Program of Action. Let me now turn to UNCTAD's Deputy Secretary General, Pedro Manuel Moreno. UNCTAD has been a long-standing partner of LDC trade development. How can the international community further help LDCs realize their trade potential? The floor is yours.
Excellencies, thank you for having us here in this super important, relevant panel. Realizing LDC's trade potential actually has been an elusive goal. And actually, despite all our efforts, today LDCs account for only 1% of global trade, 1% of global trade. something needs to be changed then. As we all know, LDCs face significant challenges in their development journey. Many of them have been already commented here, including commodity dependence, export concentration, and limited access to global markets. The usual development approaches have failed to address these challenges. Actually, we need a new generation of development policies that focus on building up low value-added manufacturing towards higher skilled, higher technological manufacturing and services. And this requires a shift away from a commodity-driven development model and a focus on building national productive capacities. Productive capacities lie at the heart of any economic transformation. These essential economic inputs help unlock investment opportunities, facilitate greater participation in international trade, and enable economic and export diversification. As UN Trade and Development has long argued, LDC graduation should not be seen as an end in itself. Support to LDCs and graduated countries should not stop on graduation day. What we need is a new generation of international support measures that can support development towards a beyond graduation. These measures should include international support in terms of international trade, financial resources, capacity building, and technical assistance. To be concrete, these measures could be targeted to align the coverage and depth of tariff cuts, rules of origin, and administrative procedures of duty-free, quota-free schemes with the productive and institutional capacities of LDCs. The aim is, of course, to ensure full utilization of these preferences. It is useful that there is certain momentum for trade preferences. These schemes offer tools to increase export earnings, promote industrialization, and accelerate economic growth in LDCs. Some examples of trade preference schemes include the Generalized System of Preferences, the GSP, Economic Partnership Agreements, the EU's Everything But Arms, or the United States African Growth and Opportunity Act. So, understanding the benefits of and limitations of these schemes is important. UNCTAD fosters such understanding through its GSP utilization database, for example. International support measures should also facilitate leveraging opportunities from regional and sub-regional integration, for example, from the AFCFTA, RCEP, and other agreements. Efforts should be made to preserve trade multilateralism and consider joint action to safeguard spatial and differential treatment as a permanent feature of future WTO agreements. In addition, measures could provide targeted debt relief to increase policy space for LDCs. And here we need to say that existing initiatives, such as the G20-led Debt Service Suspension Initiative, do not adequately address debt vulnerabilities of the most vulnerable countries. And more concrete measures are needed to increase climate finance and achieve a greater balance between mitigation and adaptation. Today, emerging and developing countries pay more on debt interest payments than on climate action, not to mention on health and education. All this leads us to the need for broader support. LDCs should receive support to boost their human and institutional capacity to formulate and implement productive capacity-based policies and strategies. In this regard, UNCTAD has a long history of advocacy and support to LDCs on a range of technical and substantive topics. For example, we have tools to benchmark and monitor productive capacities, implement holistic programs, upgrade customs procedures, monitor the external debt situation, or support LDCs' involvement in the digital economy through e-readiness assessments, to name a few. So, ladies and gentlemen, Excellencies, international support measures are crucial for realizing the trade potential of LDCs. And I would like to conclude my intervention with a very brief historical note. As some of you know, this year UNCTAD, UN Trade and Development, celebrates its 60th anniversary. We just had the events 2 weeks ago. But what not many of you may know is that the least developed countries category was recognized by the United Nations in 1971 through the efforts of UNCTAD and the Committee of Development Policy. While we coined the least developed countries category, our goal now is that one day this category is no longer needed. To this end, we will continue being a constant partner of LDCs, together with our partners here, to enable them not only to realize their trade potential, but also their development aspirations. I thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Deputy Secretary General, and for reminding us the association of UNCTAD with the birth of the LDC category. And the message that I take away from you, UNCTAD is doing a lot of work on productive capacity building and how can we move from commodity dependence to manufacturing-led growth and then ultimately to a services-led transformation. So I'm sure UNCTAD will be assisting the LDCs in the coming days. We have run out of time. I'm still trying to open the floor for a few questions. I'm requesting the interpreters to bear with us for a few more minutes. So please, if you would like to take the floor, raise your hand and identify yourself. Yes, I see the gentleman from here.
Merci, Monsieur le modérateur, de me passer la parole. Au nom de mon ambassadeur, ma délégation, celle du Cameroun, voudrais tout d'abord remercier les organisateurs de cette session de haut niveau qui nous donnent une belle occasion d'aborder les défis et challenges que doivent relever les PMA pour réaliser leur véritable potentiel commercial. Nous saluons également la présence ici des distingués ministres et panélistes pour lesquels nous remercions pour la qualité de leurs interventions. Ma question s'adresse à son Excellence, Monsieur le vice-ministre du Commerce de la Chine, son Excellence Li Fei, tout en saluant l'engagement constant de votre pays, la Chine, à soutenir l'insertion économique des PMA dans le commerce international, de même que l'appréciation du rôle actif que votre pays joue dans les négociations multilatérales commerciales ici à l'OMC. Monsieur le ministre, vous avez mentionné dans votre présentation un certain nombre de programmes mis en œuvre par la Chine. Pourriez-vous nous parler en particulier concernant l'assistance technique que les pays en développement, en particulier les PMA, bénéficient dans le cadre de ces programmes que vous avez énoncés dans votre intervention? Je vous remercie.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone who wishes to take the floor now? Yes, please.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. This is Deva from the Mission of Bangladesh. Thanks the excellent panelists for your thoughtful remarks. And I think almost all the issues that concern the LDCs are here. I have just, of course, many questions, but because of the time, I have only one pertinent question, particularly to DSG Moreno. It's important that you have brought the issue of productive capacities here, but how under this framework of aid for trade, it can help us to include more elements from productive capacities to help LDCs and graduating LDCs, of course, beyond their graduation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I think in view of time, let me get back to the panelists. There's a question addressed to Minister Lee, if you can address it now. Thank you very much.
Sure, yeah. Well, thank you for your question. The China program, also known as LDCs and accessions program under the WTO Aid for Trade initiative. From name, we can see that China attaches great importance to LDCs, and this program is I think it's the only one in WTO which focused on accessions. But actually, its efforts doesn't stop there. Since its inception in 2011, the China program has been widely praised by LDCs. I have a few figures here. For example, through 12 China Roundtable sessions, the program has facilitated the accession of 8 LDCs. And 48 people got a chance to intern at the WTO accession division 6 sessions of South-South dialogue have been held, and the program has supported LDCs into participating in dozens of WTO meetings and trade policy review follow-up work. As you may know, that last February, on the eve of MC13, Chinese Minister of Commerce, Mr. Wang Wentao, and DG Vela, they renewed the MOU on China program, which means that China will continue to fund the program and help LDCs better integrate into the multilateral trading system. Besides the China program you mentioned, I also want to say a few words about food security. You see, there will be an event which will be held by China tomorrow. The theme of the event is Aid for Trade, Food Security and China's Practices. It will be starting at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. I really hope that all of you can join the session. It would be a good opportunity to learn more about the success stories of how China helped with food security in other developing members. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister Lee, for this additional information. Deputy Secretary General Moreno, there was a question addressed to you.
Thank you. On the question on how linking aid for trade and productive capacities, I think that we need to ensure that this aid for trade is addressed also to the sectors that are going to be critical for that economic transformation and diversification, for example, digital. So we have to see how to address this aid to the sectors that countries are telling and that allow countries to be more integrated into the global economy and that are going to be strategic for the way to come, so that that way is going to also generate more investment in those sectors that the countries are going to identify, so that we mix the aid with the strategic sectors that are going to be also contributing to this increase in the productive capacity.
Thank you very much, Deputy Secretary General. I would like to look at the panelists, if any panelist would like to make any final remarks. If not, then this brings... The Minister, you wanted to say something? Okay, so the Minister, Mohammed, wants to say something. The floor is yours, sir.
Moi, je voudrais d'abord, avant de dire quoi que ce soit, remercier la Chine de son soutien indéfectible pour soutenir le PMA, et j'encourage et demande de continuer à financer ces programmes ambitieux qui permettra les pays des PMA de sortir et avoir une meilleure intégration dans le système commercial mondial. Ça, c'est très très important et je félicite la Chine de ces programmes. En conclusion, ce que je retiens de nos discussions, aujourd'hui, c'est que l'aide au commerce et pour les PMA doit rester une priorité. Et cette aide doit être appropriée, basée sur les priorités définies par le PMA et conforme aux dispositions, surtout du programme d'action de Doha, comme ça a été cité récemment, en faveur du PMA. Pour une meilleure intégration de PMA au système commercial mondial, il est crucial d'intensifier et de doubler les soutiens financiers aux mécanismes dédiés au développement du commerce et des PMA, tel que le cadre renforcé dont Djibouti a bénéficié aussi et qui nous a permis vraiment à soutenir le secteur privé, mais également d'autres domaines tels que le tourisme, mais aussi le secteur informel. Donc c'était un grand soutien pour la République de Djibouti, le cadre intégré, et il faut continuer à soutenir les paiements. Merci de votre attention.
Thank you very much, Minister Warsama Mohammed. This brings us to the end of this session, and it clearly highlights that LDCs, development partners, and international organizations have to continue working together if we are to truly reinvigorate LDC participation in global trade. I believe it is our shared priority to make aid for trade to LDCs more responsive to the evolving needs, more effective, and more efficient. And 2024 offers an opportune moment to make tangible progress and to forge stronger partnerships in support of LDC trade developments. So let me thank our distinguished speakers for their contribution. Thank you all very much. This session is now closed. Let's have a round of applause for our distinguished panelists.
Thank you.